Welcome back to Understanding Human Anatomy, the Brachial Plexus, Part 2. In the previous video, we talked about how the brachial plexus is formed from 5 roots. The roots are anterior primary rami of spinal nerve C5, C6, C7, C8, and T1. These 5 roots combine to form 3 trunks, a superior, middle, and inferior trunk. And each trunk then divides into an anterior and a posterior division. Then the divisions recombine to form chords. The anterior divisions of the superior and middle trunks come together to form the lateral cord. The anterior division of the inferior trunk continues forward as the medial cord. The posterior divisions of all 3 trunks combine to form a posterior cord. So let me put some labels in here. This is the lateral cord. This is the medial cord. And this is the posterior cord. Three cords: lateral, medial, posterior. Now these cords are going to divide and in some cases merge to form the 5 terminal nerves. So let's look at the lateral cord first. It divides in 2. And one of the divisions keeps going straight and will become the musculocutaneous nerve. The other branch we're not going to bother naming. Then we can go back to the medial cord. We're going to find that it behaves similarly. Part of it keeps going, and the other part branches over to join the branch coming from the lateral cord. And the branch that keeps going is the ulnar nerve. And then if we go back up to where the branch from the medial and the branch from the lateral cord meet, they will merge to form a third nerve, and that nerve is the median nerve. And pay attention to the way the word ends. It's median, which means in the middle. You can see it is the middle of these three nerves. Now, if we look at the posterior cord, it divides into two to form two terminal nerves, but it's a very uneven division. So I'm just going to make one very large, the same size as the cord, and then the other one branching off like so. The small branch is the axillary nerve. And it's the smallest of the nerves. And the large branch that continues from the cord is the radial nerve. So, we start with 5 roots, beginning with C5, and each root is an from an anterior ramus of the nerve. The roots, in turn, form 3 trunks. The trunks divide into anterior and posterior divisions. So we have 3 anterior and 3 posterior divisions. The anterior division of the superior and middle cord, the anterior division of the superior and middle trunk form the lateral cord. The anterior division of the inferior trunk forms the medial cord, and the posterior divisions of all 3 trunks forms the posterior cord. Then the lateral cord divides into 2. One of those branches is the musculocutaneous nerve. The medial cord divides into 2. One of those is the ulnar nerve. The branch from the lateral meets a branch from the medial. Where they come together, they form a third nerve, the median nerve. The posterior cord divides into 2, a rather large radial nerve and a much smaller axillary nerve. The musculocutaneous nerve. The musculocutaneous nerve is motor to the anterior compartment of the arm and then whatever axons are not involved in innervating those 3 muscles continue as the lateral cutaneous nerve of the forearm. The median nerve. The median nerve is motor to the muscles of the anterior compartment of the forearm, except for 1 1/2 muscles. And the exceptions, the one muscle is flexor carpi ulnaris, and the half muscle is the medial half of flexor digitorum profundus. And these exceptions are innervated by the ulnar nerve. What this means is that flexor digitorum profundus is innervated by both the median and ulnar nerve. Only half of it is innervated by ulnar, the other half is by median. The ulnar nerve. The ulnar nerve is motor to the muscles of the hand. Except for 1 1/2 muscles. The exceptions are for the one the muscles of the thenar eminence. Now I know that's 3 muscles, but it's easier to remember the same exception rule, and so we fudge a little bit. And those 3 muscles together make up one nice, easily identifiable area. They are exceptions to the rule. And the half muscles are the lateral 2 lumbricals. Again, it's 2 muscles, but it's 2 of 4, so it's half the number of lumbricals. And the exceptions in the hand are all innervated by the median nerve. So, musculocutaneous anterior compartment of the arm. So that's biceps brachii, brachialis, and coracobrachialis. Median nerve, anterior compartment of the forearm, except for flexor carpi ulnaris and the medial half of flexor digitorum profundus. They're both innervated by the ulnar nerve. The ulnar nerve is muscles of the hand, except for 1.5 muscles. The one being the muscles of the thenar eminence, and the half being the lateral 2 lumbricals, 2 of the 4 lumbricals. And the exceptions are innervated by the median nerve. Now that leaves us with the nerves that are derived from the posterior cord. So we'll start with the radial nerve. And the radial nerve is motor to the muscles of the posterior compartments of the arm and forearm. So all the extensor muscles are innervated by the radial nerve. Then we have the axillary nerve. And the axillary nerve is motor to 2 muscles. It's motor to deltoid and to teres minor. Now, combining the rules we talked about with the muscles in the various compartments of the arm and forearm and hand, and the rules we have for innervation of the muscles in those compartments, one can simplify looking at clinical problems. And clinical problems involving nerves of the brachial plexus are going to be paralysis, loss of the ability to perform certain actions. The reason for using rules and exceptions is that you can generalize, and that helps a great deal when you're doing these types of problems, because you can essentially ignore the exceptions. So if all the muscles but one that perform a certain function lose their innervation, the function is going to be essentially lost. Might be extremely weak, but so weak that it's not functional. So don't get hung up looking, oh, well, there's this little exception. That's not going to answer the question. The questions you need to answer deal with the rules, not the exceptions. So, if someone loses the ability or has a loss of extension of the elbow, wrist, or hand, the extensors are all in the posterior compartment, and the posterior compartment of both the arm and forearm is innervated by the radial nerve. So we have damage to the radial nerve. If one has loss of the ability to flex of the elbow, the muscles that flex the elbow, at least the vast majority of them, are in the anterior compartment of the arm. Biceps brachii and brachialis. So that means the nerve supplying those muscles would be damaged. So we would have damage to the nerve that supplies the biceps brachii and brachialis. So damage to the musculocutaneous nerve. If we have loss of flexion of the elbow and hand, then we would have loss of function of the muscles of the anterior compartment of the forearm. Then the nerve supplying that compartment, with those couple of 1.5 exceptions, is the median nerve. So that would indicate damage to the median nerve. If we have loss of fine motor actions of the digits, these are the actions you use when writing, threading a needle, fine activities, not the crude grasping. Fine motor action of the digits is caused by action of the small muscles of the hand. So the muscles of the hand, again, we have some exceptions, but again, you go with the rule, the majority. Muscles of the hand are innervated by the ulnar nerve, so that would indicate damage to the ulnar nerve. If one loses abduction of the shoulder, major muscle doing that is deltoid, so that would be damage to the axillary nerve. So again, putting together the actions of the muscles in the compartments with the motor innervation to the compartments, you can work through clinical problems much more easily. That completes the discussion of the basic brachial plexus, starting with 5 roots from spinal nerves beginning at C5 and ending in 5 terminal nerves. There are a number of other small nerves that come off the plexus, off the roots, off the trunks, or off the chords, that I will talk about in the next video. Thank you for your attention.